There was a mass shooting at a hockey game in Rhode Island on Monday that ended up killing 2 people and injuring 3. Now, the shooter was a 56-year-old with the name of Robert Dorgan, who basically ended up killing his ex-wife and his son during this hockey game. Now, the coverage of this shooting has been extremely biased and unfair. The corrupt mass media in this country is once again hitting the angry trans mass shooter line. They are basically trying to portray trans people as mentally imbalanced individuals who are prone to committing mass shootings, while everybody that has done even a little bit of research in this knows that the vast majority of mass shooters are straight men. Now, what they're not covering, and this is the important thing, is the real ideological underpinning of this shooter, which I was easily able to find by just doing a little bit of digging in the internet. And as it turns out, this guy was a full-blown, and I mean full-blown, far-right neo-Nazi. Now, when I was looking at this guy's internet track record, I mainly looked at his X account, and there was plenty of information over there for us to be able to conclude without a shred of doubt that he was a full-blown neo-Nazi. So here, this is a picture of the shooter, and on his arm you can see a double lightning bolt tattoo and a death's head skull tattoo. Now, for those of you who don't know, these are very classical Nazi symbolism and Nazi logos. Now, for reference, this is a picture of Heinrich Himmler, who was basically the architect of Holocaust. And on his head here, you can see that same logo. This is a death's head logo on his cap over here. Now, there were more. This is, again, a post by this guy, the shooter, 1488. Another Nazi symbol. Here he is. Here's this guy says, Christians, does this go hard or is it blasphemy? And here's a picture of a swastika around the cross. And this is the shooter commenting on this, saying, how did you find my tattoo? Here he is basically supporting MAGA. Same tattoo again on his arm, the double lightning bolt and the death's head skull tattoo. As it turns out, he was a huge Nick Fuentes fan. And for those of you who don't know, Nick Fuentes is this viral neo-Nazi content creator nowadays that his fans, they're called groypers, and this guy was a groyper. He's a huge Nick Fuentes fan. He says, Nick rules, love Nick. Except, can Nick wear mittens? The thumbs freak me out. Okay, here he's basically identifying himself as being to the right of Hitler. He's saying post-op trans to the right of Hitler, so try again. And a Nazi, and Hitler. Not a Marxist, right of Hitler actually, try again. So was Hitler, so effing what? Okay, so here he is clearly a Trump supporter. He's saying, that's okay, Trump will have his own Rushmore. I call it Trumpmore. They torture Trump, time to even up. They hate Trump, simple. Yeah, but Trump returned before Jesus. So yeah, you see, literally it took me just a few minutes of digging and I was easily able to find all the ideological and political beliefs that this guy has, and literally none of the mass media organizations, ABC, NBC, I've been looking into all of them, none of them are reporting on the fact that this guy basically was a neo-Nazi. They're just constantly hammering the fact that he was a transgender person. Now, I don't have a problem with the media identifying this guy as being a transgender person, because that's part of his identity, and you want to give as much information about this shooter to the public. But ask yourself this question. If you know that someone is a neo-Nazi, and you also know that that same person is a transgender, and they've done a mass shooting, which one of these two pieces of information is more important to share with the public? Is it more likely for a neo-Nazi individual to commit a mass shooting, or is it more likely for a transgender individual to commit a mass shooting? It is not even close. As I said, the vast majority of shooters are straight men. However, there is absolutely a clear trend among mass shooters of the past when it comes to them holding neo-Nazi and far-right beliefs. For example, the Christchurch mosque shooting in New Zealand, that was back in 2019. That person ended up killing 51 people at a mosque. He published a manifesto, and he basically stated that the reason he was doing this mass shooting was the Great Replacement, and he was worried about white people becoming a minority in New Zealand. And all over his manifesto there was Nazi and fascist symbols. You also had the Buffalo supermarket shooting back in 2022 that ended up killing 10 people. And again, the guy left a white supremacist manifesto. His obsession was also a Great Replacement theory and Nazi symbols and signs of online radicalization all over his case too. You also had the Charleston church shooting. Dylan Roof, he ended up killing 9 people. The guy was a Confederate apartheid dude who had multiple photos with neo-Nazi iconography and whatnot. So there is an absolute trend where we've had many neo-Nazis committing mass shootings, but the media does not cover that, and they're constantly hammering that this guy was a transgender. Anyways, let's watch together some of the ways that they're covering the news with this guy, and you guys will clearly see they're not mentioning anything about this guy being a neo-Nazi.
Are trying to piece together what led to these chaotic moments at a high school hockey game. Video capturing the sound of gunshots at an ice rink.
We have shots fired, multiple people down at the which arena.
Bystanders racing to safety. Police say the shooter opened fire around 2:30 Monday, killing 2 people and critically injuring 3 others.
There was one lone suspect, that this was a targeted event. It looked like it was a family dispute.
Overnight, authorities identifying the shooter as Robert Dorgan, who they say also went by Roberta Esposito. Social media posts showing Dorgan discussing getting gender reassignment surgery and recently responding to attacks on a transgender congresswoman, writing, quote, "Do not wonder why we go."
So look, they actually had looked at his X account, the same X account that I ended up looking at, okay? They did look at it, but out of all the neo-Nazi tweets, they did not report on a single one of them. But they are reporting on the one tweet which has something to do with him being a transgender, and that is it. Tell me if the mass media in this country is not biased.
Go berserk. Police say it appears the suspect died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, adding authorities retrieved multiple firearms from the scene. They say one person tried to subdue the shooter.
A good Samaritan stepped in and interjected in this scene, and that's probably what led to a swift end of this tragic event.
The gunfire erupted in the middle of a senior night game featuring players from several local high schools, including goalie Olin Lawrence.
At first it was like bop bop, and I thought it was balloons. But it just kept going, and it was actually gunshots.
As chaos erupted in the stands.
Me and my teammates ran right to the locker room. We pressed against the door and just tried to stay safe down in there.
Just over 2 months after a mass shooting at Brown University killed 2 students and injured 9. Rhode Island's Governor Dan McKee saying, "Our state is grieving again."
I just never thought that something like this would happen, especially with kids involved. It's something I can't really wrap my head around.
And Pawtucket police say the shooter was attending the hockey game to watch a family member. A woman who identified herself as the daughter of the suspect to other local media said, quote, "He shot my family and was very sick with mental health issues." Local, state, and federal authorities, including the FBI, now on the ground and investigating exactly what happened. Craig and
So there you go. Nothing about a guy being a neo-Nazi. And I'm telling you guys, the mass media in this country right now is fully invested in this right-wing ideology of trying to basically conflate transgender people with being mentally ill and being prone to violence and things like that, where in reality none of these things are true. The most important and relevant aspect of this shooter's identity was the fact that he was a far-right radicalized neo-Nazi. And the fact that the liberal media is refusing to report on this is basically just allowing this anti-trans conversation to spread all over the internet. Now, all the right-wingers are going to be hyper-focusing on this person's trans identity while completely ignoring their neo-Nazi identity. You know, people hear all this news and they see the ridiculous bias and slant that exists in our mass media, And then people wonder why no one anymore trusts mass media anymore. Because people are not stupid. In this day and age of internet, we have so many different ways to be able to get our information. I just did 5 minutes of digging and I was able to find all of this while none of these mass media corporations were reporting on any of this. Now, my guess for why the media is covering the news like this is because, in my opinion, they're hand in hand with the Trump administration. I mean, the Trump administration literally ran on an anti-trans agenda during the 2024 election season. Trans bathrooms, trans surgery, trans athletes, these were literally the most important political points of that whole election season. And now that Trump has won the presidency and we have a Trump administration, they have gone on many occasions to try to threaten the media and try to get the media in line. And what you guys are seeing right now, this is the media caving in to the administration. So in America, we no longer have a unbiased, independent media. You have a administration in the White House right now that has fully overtaken the media and is trying to bend the media into following their agenda. Anyways, guys, I will keep on covering the news to the best of my ability. Please subscribe to my channel and give the video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Thank you.